Welcome, everybody. Good afternoon. Many of you know me. I am Dr. John Stracks. I'm a physician in the Chicagoland area and nationally on telehealth, specializes in mind-body medicine. And it's great to be with you today. I am here with my special guest and colleague, Erica Walker, who is a psychotherapist and pain coach with us at Cormendi Health. As a brief introduction, Erica is a world-renowned pain reprocessing therapy therapist. I'll refer to pain reprocessing therapy as PRT. And she's been with us here at Cormendi Health for about 4 years now. She has extensive experience in this field, was previously the clinical director at the Pain Psychology Center in Los Angeles. And given her expertise and experience and success in helping clients deal with physical symptoms using PRT therapy methods, I've asked her to help me create this primer on what PRT is and how it's used. And I think there's a lot of both interest in PRT and a lot of confusion about what it is and what it isn't. And so, Erica, I am beyond thrilled that you are here with me today to talk about this. So welcome. And did I miss anything in my introduction of you?
No, that made me sound like a superstar, so I'll take it.
You
Thanks for
are
having
a superstar. Anyways, so I'm super glad you're here. And like I said, I've been amazed at sort of how successful you are working with people with physical symptoms over the years. Can you, just so people have a little bit of background, can you tell a little bit more about who you are and sort of how you became the therapist you are today?
Yeah, thanks. So I'll start from the beginning. My undergraduate degree, I had two degrees. I was pre-med and psychology. And during that period of time, I had the super high privilege of being able to dissect two human cadavers, which got me so fascinated in anatomy and physiology, which rolled me into becoming a massage therapist, and I went to a school called the Institute of Psychostructural Balancing, meaning the mind and the body. So I started off my mind body career on the more body oriented side, but we were focused very much on the emotional housing, how we hold emotion in the body. So my adulthood started off this way with an understanding that the mind and the body are not separate entities and they affect one another.
And when you were working as a massage therapist, which you did for a while, did you ever see that in action? Did you ever see sort of working on the body side and sort of entering into people's emotional world?
Yes, there are actually two that have stuck with me because they were so beautiful. I was working with a young man who was about to be married, and I met him, and I could just see the nervousness on him. And so during the massage, I could tell he was very tight, a lot of tension in the body. And so I did an energy hold where it's a hand on the head, hand on the heart. And I just held here for a moment. So it sort of mimics being held by someone who cares about you. And he started just weeping, just profoundly weeping. We weren't talking at all. I didn't say anything, he didn't say anything. And it was just this huge emotional release and tension just released from his body. And the other one that I remember was really amazing. It was this woman that I would see regularly. She was a cellist for the LA Philharmonic.
Hmm.
It's a really high achieving, high level. And she would come over to my house and I would work on her forearms and hands, lots of tension being held here. And when I would work on her forearms and hands, she would laugh, just this profound, wild laughter until she would cry. And she would feel so great afterwards. And it was just so touching to me to be part of that experience with people.
Hmm. And, in this world, in the mind-body medicine world, we frequently think about the power of the mind to influence the body. And those are really good examples of the body influencing the mind and you working on the body to influence the mind. And, I don't know any other therapist in this world who started out by dissecting cadavers. And I think really gives you a unique perspective.
I mean, I do think that what is unique to me is that I'm fearless with talking about symptom and people's bodies. You cannot freak me out. I am not intimidated by this. I'm extremely confident tell me what's going on in your body. What are you experiencing? I want to know.
Yeah. And I think, I've talked to a lot of psychotherapists over the years who just don't do who it's the opposite of that, right? They learn in therapy school that their job is in the mind and my job as a physician is in the body, and there's not a lot of or any overlap there. And so that's one of the things I appreciate about you is just how comfortable you are in that physical world.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, me too. I appreciate that you're able to do that. And so you're working as a massage therapist. At some point you made the decision that you were gonna switch tracks and learn to become a psychotherapist. And so eventually you found your way to Pain Psychology Center probably 10 or so years ago. And that is where you were first introduced to the concept of PRT, correct?
Yes, that was a really special time at Pain Psychology Center because it was still very mom and pop. So we were hanging out in Alan Gordon's apartment, me, Christy Weepy, some really amazing therapists, and we were having this think tank experience, case consulting. So I was learning PRT from Alan and Christy, Derek Sapico, and Ed Walton. And this was my world. So it wasn't like I was doing this one-off training in PRT. That was my whole world. Was
Mhm.
having conversations about PRT as it was continuing to be refined, as Alan and Christy were doing the Boulder back pain study, as Alan was working on his book, The Way Out. So I was there for all of that. I was in on the ground floor of being able to bring PRT into not just a modality, but a way that I work with clients and how can I adjust that with each of my clients? What makes sense for them? So I'm constantly assessing what's a strategy or a tool that this particular client might find useful, that they might find meaningful.
And so as you were spending time there and learning about this and working with, what today are giants in the field along with you, what really resonated with you? What made you say, like, this is my calling and this is the kind of work that I want to do?
I think with all of these steps that I've taken, all of these decisions that I've made in my life, it didn't occur to me that I would end up here working with you. I was just following what was interesting to me, and I like results. I'm a person who likes results. I like to see what works, what is working, what is not working. So let's put that on the shelf. If we think that that's not going to work right now, let's lean into what does work. And at this point in my career, what I have seen work over and over and over. I've
Yeah.
asked in advance of us talking, I had asked several clients, what are some of the things that have worked really well for you? And
Mhm.
there's an extraordinary amount of overlap in what people say.
Mhm. And we'll talk about some of those today. We'll talk about some of those next time you and I talk. And, a lot of people have come into this work by reading, say, Dr. John Sarno and the Mind Body Prescription. And back when Dr. Sarno was practicing, he was in New York. And so it's a lot of, this is 1970s, 1980s, a lot of psychoanalysis. And so it would be like, okay, read this book, get this, understand this message. And if you're not better, we'll send you to an analyst essentially and do like 3 times a week therapy for many years until we sort out what's at the bottom of this. PRT is not that.
No. So I think the psychoanalysis is more of a bottom up type of therapy, a bottom up process. And
Yeah.
PRT is more strategy and structure.
Hmm.
What I like about PRT for our clientele, so by the time a client gets to me, they've been through dozens of doctors, physical therapists, medication, you name it. They've tried it. I've had clients try things that I haven't even heard of, right? So they're exhausted, they're frustrated, they're overwhelmed, they're scared. And they get to me and they're like, I need you to just tell me what to do and how to do it because I can't keep talking about my childhood for the rest of my life and expect that this is going to somehow shift the experience that I'm having in my body.
Yeah.
When I think of PRT, I'm thinking of danger versus safety. So, analog dial here, volume up on the nervous system. We're starting to pitch towards danger. We're starting to pitch more towards a fight, flight, or freeze experience. And everything in PRT is of service of bringing that volume down into safety. So we're creating through all these different strategies opportunities for the brain to appraise, I am safe right now. Therefore, it's not necessary for me to continue to use the same old neural circuitry to send out signals of pain and danger and sensation into the body.
And so it's a process that you've gone through with, I'm going to say thousands of clients over the years. And so say I'm a new client to you and I come in and it's this situation where I'm dealing with a physical symptom, whether it's back pain or migraine headaches or fibromyalgia or chronic fatigue or stomach issues or any of it, all of which I know you've seen in our Cormendi clients. And so I come to you, like you said, I've talked to a dozen different people, psychologists and physicians and physical therapists. And so how would you get started with me? Like what happens when I first come and see you?
So, what I first want to know is what is the client's working knowledge of neuroplastic pain? What have they read? What's informing them? And why do they think that this applies to them?
Mhm.
Most of the clients that come through Cormendi have already read something. They've been on Curable. They've probably read Sarno. They've probably read The Way Out. And so they have some working knowledge, but I want to make sure that we really solidify what does this mean to you and how do you fit into this?
Mhm.
So then what we do is we roll into what's called an evidence list. What are the pieces of evidence that cause you to think that this is more mind body and less structural? So some of the obvious physiological pieces of evidence are going to be things like I had an MRI that was relatively unremarkable, or
Mhm.
I had blood work done. They didn't really see much. I've seen doctors, medication really hasn't helped me all that much. PT hasn't really been as helpful as I would have liked it to have been. All of these things that I've tried have not really been as effective as one might think that they should be. And here I am, right? We know that it's not been effective because they're coming here.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
We might be looking at pieces of evidence like the symptom or sensation moves around, might have several different symptoms, might have been a child who had a lot of tummy aches or a lot of earaches. So
Mhm.
lots of physiological pieces of evidence that we can point to here. And then there's more of the psychological element of did this happen to show up during a period of time of
Mhm.
stress?
Mhm.
Does this show up when it's not a physical trigger, but more of an argument with your partner or, you know, your estranged parent reaching out to you out of the blue?
And so there's two different ways. And would this be like, is this a conversation that you and I would have? Is this a homework assignment that you're gonna give me to take with me? Like, how do we actually like, is there an actual evidence list that I'm writing down, or is it sort of a way of thinking about whether these symptoms may be based in my psychology as opposed to my body?
Mm-hmm. So right out of the gate, I'm writing down. We're bullet pointing and writing down what are the pieces of evidence here. And I'll ask questions and I'll ask prompts. And some of the questions that I might ask are, do you find yourself to be perfectionistic? Do you find yourself to be people pleasing? Do you have any history of anxiety?
Mhm.
So let's unpack anxiety here for a moment because from time to time I'll talk with people and they'll say, no, I have never had anxiety before in my life. I would argue that no one has never had anxiety before in their life, right? So anxiety can sound like a very clinical term.
Mhm.
Anxiety is it's that agitation that we might feel in our body, that chest tightness, that tension in the body. It's worry, it's obsessive thoughts, it's catastrophic thinking, it's rumination, nervousness, stress. I hear this a lot with people. I don't have anxiety, but I've had a lot of stress,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
It's fear. I'd put anxiety in the category of fear, that which we fear.
Mhm.
So we want to spend a little bit of time unpacking how that shows up. What quality of anxiety shows up? Is it more obsessive? Monitoring the body? Is it there? Is it gone? Is it worse? Is it better? I need to pay attention to this at all times.
Mhm. Mhm.
Is it more worry? What if this happens?
Mhm. Mhm.
Is it more catastrophic? I'm the one who can't figure this out. I'll never be out of pain.
Mhm. Mhm.
This is the rest of my life. We
Mhm.
hear a lot of that.
Yes, I was just going to ask you how many times you've heard people say that they understand the theory and they see how it will work for other people, but they're worried that it's not going to work for them.
That's right. It's probably the most common fear.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah.
Mhm.
Say, like I said, I come in and see you and want to see you as a client. And so is that something that you're trying to assess right away? Is this anxiety piece and sort of how much that's in play for me?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I think that's really critical. With perfectionism and people pleasing, we hear this a lot, and Sarno referred to this as being the goodest.
Hmm.
Not many people bring that term up these days, but I do like that term. I think it really kind of encapsulates the perfectionism and people pleasing. So when we're thinking about people pleasing, we're talking about boundaries. Are you saying yes when you'd rather say no?
Hmm.
We want people to like us. We're biologically hardwired to want to stay in a group. That's what group is safety.
Hmm.
So we navigate our lives in a multitude of ways to keep people from disliking us.
Hmm.
And sometimes that can pitch into not having maybe strong enough boundaries, which is not a judgment. This is usually learned behavior, right? Again, we want people to like us. This is a good quality. It means that we're nice.
Hmm. Hmm.
We don't want to abolish that, but we want to be thinking about to what degree are we taking care of ourselves within our relationships.
Hmm. Hmm. And so when we're thinking about PRT in general and sort of how it works and what people could expect if they're working on that, help me understand how this all fits together. And so far we've talked about kind of understanding that the symptoms are not physically based or not necessarily physically based, and then understanding our own trends towards anxiety, people pleasing, perfectionism. And
Mm.
so, how does that help me ultimately to start to get better? Or why are we starting there?
So we want evidence to be irrefutable.
Hmm. Hmm.
So let's say it's physical. It's something like my MRI was unremarkable. So we know that information.
Hmm. Hmm.
We want to notice these psychological elements as well. And I want people to write them down, bullet point them, and if something else comes up that they happen to remember, add that to the evidence list. So we're not going to be in an argument with the evidence list. And
Hmm.
the reason why this is important is because what clients will tend to do, not all, but many, will start doing this. But it could be structural. No, I don't think it is. But something might have been missed. And we're doing this back and forth. And this is anxiety. This is chatter, 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 chatter. So
Hmm.
if we have an evidence list, and this starts happening, we can look at the evidence and go, okay, but my MRI was unremarkable.
Hmm.
Okay, but I do kind of characterologically sort of fit the role here
Hmm. Hmm.
that I'm with perfectionism, I'm navigating my life so that I don't screw up. Because if I screw up, I might disappoint somebody. So I need to stay really vigilant with how I navigate my work, with how I navigate my relationships.
Hmm.
If I stay perfect, then people can't hate me. I can't get kicked out of the group if I don't screw up ever. And that's so much pressure.
Hmm. 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 And so when we're thinking about the evidence list, then there's, and you said this a few minutes ago, there's the physical part of it, why it is that sort of a physical explanation doesn't really 100% make sense. And then also this psychological part of it, that I have these traits and I am the kind of person who is described in books, or that you can point out that these psychological traits in me can lead to the development of pain because I'm trying to use this to stay away from disappointing people or feeling like I'm not enough or feeling like I'm not going to get what I want or sort of so many different pieces of it, correct?
That's right. That's right. And these strategies of perfectionism, people pleasing, this is developed usually very early on.
Hmm.
So if a child grew up in a chaotic household, if they grew up in a household where parents or guardians were unpredictable, they didn't quite know what to expect when they got home from school,
Hmm.
then what a lot of kids do is they learn to pull their feelings inside. There's not space for my feelings in this house. I'm going to just stuff that down and I'm going to do my best to navigate the circumstances that I'm in.
Hmm. Hmm.
So for a lot of kids, that's if I just get the gold star, if I don't get my name on the board, if I get good grades, if I work really hard and I kind of stay out of the way,
Mhm.
then that keeps me safe.
Mhm.
And that's what we're learning as kids is what is safe and what is dangerous.
Right. And then the downside of that, right? Because if that strategy just works, like if we could just keep ourselves everything inside, then there wouldn't be a problem. But the downside is we can't stuff everything down forever, right?
Right, right. It eventually needs a place to go.
Hmm. And, and what I say to people all the time, and I think probably what you say too, is that until we learn otherwise, we just assume that physical symptoms are about physical problems.
Right. Of course.
And when you really dig into the research, that's not what the research says, that you can have lots of physical issues in your body without any pain or symptoms, lots of pain or symptoms without any kind of physical damage. And so pain really isn't about damage, it's about the sense of danger.
Hmm.
And and if the emotions become dangerous,
Right.
then when we have the emotions, in order to deal with that danger, we produce these physical symptoms.
Hmm. Yes, that's right.
And I think a lot of us learn that really, really early on and then just perpetuate it.
Because it was a strategy that worked, right? Kids are very smart.
Mhm.
And they go, oh, okay, so there's going to be yelling. I'm going to remove myself from the situation. I'm going to go to my room. I'm going to make myself as small as possible. I'm going to make myself invisible.
Yeah.
That's a smart strategy,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
as we develop and become adults, we're still going to employ these strategies that have worked for us in the past. And then we might get to a point where maybe that's not working for us. So let's say I'm saying yes to everyone instead of saying no when I want to. I'm going to develop a lot of resentment. I will still look very nice. I
Mhm.
will still smile. I will still be generous. Everyone will like me. But inside, I'm going to be harboring this anger that is not a safe emotion for me. So I'm going to get it down, stuff that anger
Mhm.
down.
Mhm. And so then as part of this PRT process, you're trying at least at the beginning to assess like what's going on under the surface that's leading to the symptoms, correct?
Right, right, exactly, exactly.
And so anyway, so that's as you're getting to know somebody, the kinds of things that you're trying to do, make sure they understand and are clear in their own mind where the symptoms are coming from. You get a chance to start to learn where you think the symptoms are coming from. And then what happens from there? Like what else happens in this PRT process?
Well, in the first session, there's a lot of territory to cover.
Mhm.
I want clients to always leave the first session with some kind of strategy, something that they can use.
Mhm.
Again, because they have already been through it. They've already answered every question about their body.
Mhm.
They've done all of this. They just want something to hold on to.
Mhm.
And so I do a couple of pieces of homework or strategy right out of the gate. So
Mhm.
the evidence list is going to roll right into track your wins. And so this is another PRT strategy.
Mhm.
It's keeping track of the things that are going well. We are survival oriented beings. We are profoundly skilled at keeping track of the things that we don't like.
Mhm.
We
Mhm.
might even expand them. I stubbed my toe this morning. That means this day is ruined.
Mhm. Mhm.
So we want to keep track of what's going well. And so what I mean by track your wins, and it's going to be, this is very client, specific. It's unique to each client.
Mhm.
So it could be something like, I went to a restaurant. I knew it was going to have some hard chairs.
Mhm.
I'd have to sit in a wooden chair. That scares me. In spite of it scaring me, and in spite of having some anxiety around that, I went to the restaurant. I did it anyway.
Mhm.
Maybe I experienced some discomfort. Maybe I was super engaged. Either way, that's a win.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
The chair isn't dangerous.
Mhm.
The chairs become avoidant.
Mhm.
So anything that clients are doing, like I bent over and tied my shoe. I went to Target. It was loud and bright and there were a lot of people and it was a little overwhelming, but I did it anyway.
Mhm. Mhm.
It could be I went to my nephew's bar mitzvah and ended up seeing people that I hadn't seen in a while, and I felt really great, and I really wasn't paying attention to my body all that much.
Mhm.
Now, the wins and the evidence might overlap
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
because that might be a piece of evidence. Oh, when I'm experiencing profound joy, when I'm around people that I love, then I'm not paying attention to my body that much. Therefore, I'm not noticing sensation. And that's a piece of evidence, right? So that's not structural.
hmm hmm
I'm experiencing joy and I'm not noticing pain or sensation or symptom. That's not a structural event.
Right. And so same as like the evidence list and if people want sort of hard lists that they can use, they can reach out to us and get in touch with us at Cormendi and we can send them the tools we have. But the evidence list, the tracking of wins, are you asking people to literally like write these things down and
Yeah,
keep track of them?
yeah, yeah. I want people keeping track of them. The evidence list can continue on.
hmm
And track your wins is this is a weekly exercise. So I
hmm
want people showing up to our next session with what has gone well this week, what were your wins? And these don't have to be huge wins. They can be small things of I usually am only able to walk, a third of a mile. And then yesterday I was able to walk half a mile.
hmm hmm And and like you said, like we're hardwired to look for the negative and look for the threat. We really have to practice being able to see the positive side. And right, because if we don't get excited about the things that we're doing, then there's no reason to keep looking for those wins.
Right.
And that's why I think it's such an important strategy. I have a client who's done really, really well, like terrible foot pain, was in a wheelchair, like has done great for 10 years. And she told me the story one time where they took their child, who was probably 5 or 6, to Disneyland, and she didn't think she could go, and she was worried about it. And she called me and she's like, I went for Disneyland for a week and it was great. Like I walked around the whole park and I sat for like 10 minutes on one of the days, but otherwise I was there and I was with my family. It was so much fun. And then she paused and she's like, when do you think I'll get better? And I was like, you did, you won, you got better. You had to sit down for 10 minutes over the course of the whole week. But she saw that 10 minutes as like she still wasn't better and missed sort of this entire picture of
Yeah.
movement.
Yes, yes. That's why I push hard in the opposite direction, right? So we spend a lot of our lives in this direction of what's dangerous, what's threatening, what don't I like. It's not our fault. We're
Mhm.
biologically hardwired,
Yeah.
oriented towards threat. So we go hard shift in the opposite direction. What's going well? That could be the smallest thing. I want people mining for that.
Mhm, mhm, mhm,
I ate a cupcake and it was delicious. That's fine. Anything that you find to be a win for you is a win.
mhm, mhm, mhm. And it's so tempting, right, to say like, yes, but I had this win, but I'm still in pain. Yes, I had this win, but I'm still not sure I can do this.
Yes. And so tracking the wins, I will oftentimes have to kind of like scoot people back to this is what we're doing because I will hear I had this really great day on Wednesday, but then Thursday was a total mess. And then we're stuck on Thursday.
Mhm,
Let's go back to Wednesday.
mhm.
What was happening on Wednesday?
Mhm, mhm, mhm. And so this is a common occurrence when people are working with you, right? That they'll try to bypass. You'll go over with the wins, you'll have them bring their list with them, and they'll really quickly move through that and want to go into what's not going well. So will you stop them and come back and say like, hey, no, we need to look at this a little bit more?
It depends. It depends on where we're sort of at in our therapeutic relationship.
Yeah.
Because it's been so wired in to
Mhm.
I need to be focused. I need to be fixated on this pain.
Yeah.
This is what we're doing. So I need to let you know how bad it is. So
Mhm.
okay, so I don't want to dismiss that because I know it's bad. I know it sucks.
Mhm. Mhm.
So I do want to make sure that we spend some time with that. But we're building on strategies. We're always building on what's your strategy? Okay, so then Thursday, this came up. What were you able to employ in that moment?
Yeah. And so you're starting with the assessment, the evidence list, keeping track of wins. Is there one more tool that you'll frequently hand out early in the process with people, first or second session?
Yeah, so in my first session, I'm making the decision as I'm kind of going through this assessment phase of do I want to start with something more cognitive or do I want to start with something more like somatic tracking? Those are two tools that I use right out of the gate. But I want to make sure that someone can tolerate somatic tracking. So if the level of fear is really quite high, then we're probably going to start off with something more cognitive.
Mhm.
So this
And
is,
and just to interject for a second, you and I have talked on camera about somatic tracking, and so everybody who's listening, they may or may not know there on our YouTube channel, there's already an interview of the two of us talking about that. And I think somatic tracking is an important part of PRT, but like you said, not everybody is ready to do that right from the beginning. And so if you find somebody who has a little bit too much fear to sort of really settle into their body, you'll work on the level of the brain first, correct?
yes, and I wonder if we can drop that video in the comments so that people can have access to that somatic tracking.
Yes.
It is an integral piece of pain reprocessing therapy.
I will drop that into the chat. And how do you start to use some of those more cognitive strategies and how do you think about employing them?
When I was at Pain Psychology Center, I sort of developed this tool that's specific to people who experience chronic pain because we know, because we've witnessed it, that people who experience chronic pain have a tendency to be hard on themselves, right? And so people who have been maybe at this for a little bit and they've listened to some things, sometimes we'll pick up on this idea of, I'm not supposed to have a negative thought, right? So people tend to be really hard on themselves, and they oftentimes don't even realize that they are because it's been so habitual throughout their lives. And so this idea of, oh no, I'm not supposed to have a negative thought, there's something fundamentally and uniquely wrong with me. Again, kind of speaking to that catastrophic fear of, I have negative thoughts, so that means I'm the one who's not going to get better,
Mhm.
right? Thoughts are thoughts. We have 70,000 thoughts a day. Roughly 90% are the same as yesterday. And we tend to gravitate towards the ones that we either really like or really are afraid of.
Mhm. Mhm.
Right? What if this fear oriented thought is true?
Yeah.
And we'll spend long periods of time going back over that thought. Again, 70,000 thoughts a day, 90% the same. So we've had this thought, what if I'm the one who's not going to get better? I could argue thousands of times, had this thought thousands of times. It has not been of service.
Mhm.
It hasn't changed anything.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
It's suffering. That looping thought is emotional suffering, and it's bringing the volume up on the nervous system. Like I said earlier, everything that we're doing in PRT is in service of bringing the volume down.
The volume of what down?
Just the volume of, right up here is fight or flight,
Mhm. Mhm.
and we want to try to transition a little bit more into rest and digest.
Got it.
So when that analog volume is up, we start pitching more and more towards fight or flight.
Mhm.
The breath gets shallow, the heart starts racing, the body becomes tense, so that we can effectively get away from a grizzly bear. That's what our fight or flight is designed for, is to keep us alive. But most of the time, we don't need to be in that state.
Mhm. 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 Got it. And yet, right, because of who we are and because of our need to look at the threat, right, for our ancestors, better to mistake a stick for a snake than a snake for a stick. And so we produce all of these potentially catastrophic thoughts just to try to keep us safe. And so how do you start to work with people on that?
So this technique, I call it the 3 C's. And so I will oftentimes do this in a very first session so that a client can leave feeling like, I have homework to do, I have a strategy that I can use, right? So I want this to feel useful to clients instead of just tell me about your childhood and then our time is up, you're on your way,
Mhm.
right? Our clients are going to leave going, so I just, told you every horrible thing that's happened in my life, and what am I supposed to do?
Mhm. Mhm.
So because I've heard that over and over and over from people, I need you to tell me something to do. Then okay, I will. I'm fine doing that. I'm a pretty directive person.
Mhm. Mhm.
So I'll just unpack this. We've got enough time for this.
Mhm.
The 3 C's stands for catch, compassion, carry on.
Catch, compassion, carry on. Okay, got it.
Right. So this is relatively simple, but I'm going to really unpack it because I know our clients sometimes will have a lot of fear that they're not doing something correctly.
Mhm.
And I'm sure you've heard that before. Am I doing it right? Right? That's just another anxious thought. That's just another fear-oriented thought.
Right, right. And is this a like common CBT technique that sort of got invented somewhere? Like how do you know about this?
Well, I've studied a lot of CBT, but I did this specifically for our clientele.
Mhm,
So
mhm,
the catch part and getting out of battle with the thought is the cognitive behavioral. The compassion piece, I think, is really crucial for our clients. Can I be more gentle with myself? The carry on piece is going to go to, for now, I will expand on this with clients that I've been working with for a while, but for right now is just what's going on with my breath. So there's a somatic piece in there as well. So
mhm,
there's cognitive, self-compassion, and then the somatic piece.
mhm.
So I kind of piecemealed this together from different interventions, so specific to knowing what our clientele presents with.
So this is your own technique that you developed specifically for working with clients who have physical symptoms, correct?
Mhm.
Got it. Got it. Got it. Let me help you unpack this just a little bit more so that people really have a good sense of it. And again, people are interested in the handouts and the worksheets that we have. You can get in touch with our office and we'll send those on. But the catch, so the first C, I'm trying
Mhm.
to catch the negative thought or any thought, or what am I trying to catch?
Okay, so I'm just going to roll right into unpacking this. So let's say the thought is, I'm the one who's never going to figure this out.
Mhm, mhm,
You might be 45 minutes down a rabbit hole of looping this before you recognize that that's what's happening. But
mhm,
this first piece is we've got to come into awareness that that's what's happening so that we're not getting overwhelmingly hijacked by these thoughts that are showing up and we're not taking them as truths, right? We would never go around in the world and say, hey, by the way, everything that I think is true,
mhm,
right?
mhm.
We know that's not accurate,
Right.
but we're doing this privately. So no one sees that we're looping. I'm never getting better. I'm never getting better over and over and over.
Mhm,
So in sort of old school pop psychology, they might talk about thought replacements.
mhm,
Right? If you have a negative thought, you've got to replace it with a positive thought. Here's the problem with that. We're back to this.
mhm.
Yes, it is. No, it isn't. Yes, you will. No, you won't. And now we're in this higher level of anxiety. So what I ask people to do is just notice the thought. Just notice, oh, I'm 45 minutes down a rabbit hole with this thought. Okay, so let's stay there for a second.
Yep.
The next step is compassion.
And
Here,
just and I'm sorry to interrupt, the types of thoughts that we're going to catch. So I'm never going to get better. What are a couple other common thoughts that people have that this would be useful for? I'm not in the right place. Like this is really a physical issue or must be physical. Is that another one?
right, the battle of is it structural, is it not structural? And
Mhm.
that's not really of service once we have a nice solid evidence list going.
Erica won't be able to help me. Is that another one or this isn't the right type of treatment for me?
Or I'm uniquely damaged. There's something so specifically wrong with me that makes me different that I'm going to be the one that it all those thoughts are kind of coming back to the same place of I'm the one who can't get better. I can't figure this out.
Got it. Got it. Got it.
But
Okay.
this can apply to other looping thoughts of I'm going to lose my job. I had someone who was just always convinced that he was going to lose his job. I'm going to lose my job. I'm going to lose my job. It's not of value. It's just suffering. It's
Mhm.
just bringing that anxiety up. So all we're doing with this first C is that we're just going to catch it.
Got it.
We need to do anything with it. We're just noticing there's a thought. So we've got to be in awareness to be able to affect change. We
Mhm.
can't affect change if we don't know what's going on.
Mhm. Okay.
So this is really simple. I'm making it sound more challenging than it is, but I'm going to show you how to use this. So, aha, there it is. And then this one is the hardest for people to do. And I do a thumbs up with this. This is the compassion piece. Good. I'm getting better at this. Why do I put this in here? Because people have read that they're not supposed to, or at least they're interpreting, I'm not supposed to have negative thoughts. So what'll happen is they'll go, okay, there's that really scary thought. Why do I keep doing this to myself? see, something is so uniquely wrong with me that I'm having all of these scary thoughts. And now I'm really never going to get out of pain. So what we've done is what the Buddhists call the second arrow, I think.
Mhm,
It's basically kicking yourself while you're down.
mhm, mhm,
I'm bad. I can't see now. I really can't figure this out.
mhm, mhm,
Okay. So going back. So it's aha, there's that scary thought.
mhm,
Good, I'm getting better at this. I literally have had some clients that will give themselves a physical thumbs up, which I think is great because it's kind of goofy, it's kind of funny, it's kind of lighthearted. But we've got to go this direction as opposed to this direction.
mhm, mhm,
Even if it feels totally unnatural,
mhm,
we're going here. People will get good at the catching.
mhm, mhm,
This is going to be harder because what's going to happen is the mind is going to go, I don't know. Erica might really not know what she's saying. Dr. Stracks might, but he doesn't know me that well. Like the mind's going to keep trying to pull back into that protective, threat oriented state. It's
mhm,
just, aha, there it is again.
mhm,
Good, I'm getting better at this. I'm not getting hijacked as often as I maybe have in the
mhm,
past.
mhm, mhm. And the compassion is about giving compassion to ourselves for working on this, practicing it, sort of getting better more quickly, finding the thoughts. So that's the big part of the compassion part, correct?
Right,
Yeah.
right. So, and the mind is going to keep trying to pull back.
Mhm,
That's
mhm.
not a fail. That's not a fail. It's just a habit.
Yep.
So it's aha, there it is. Maybe it's the 400th time in the last hour. And good, I'm getting better at this.
Mhm,
And the third C, for just for the purposes of this lunch and learn today, the third C is what's going on with my breath. Let's carry on. Let's check back in with what's happening with my breath. Okay, so if I've been marinating in this scary thought and
mhm,
I've been suffering over here, the odds of my breath being shallow, getting the heart going a little bit faster, having tension in the body, pretty high.
mhm,
You can put your hand on your belly and just breathe into your hand.
mhm,
Can I just slow my breath down? We don't need to do a fancy breath technique unless you already have one that you use that works really well for you.
mhm,
So it's aha, good. Brain's gonna pull back. Ah, got it again. Sneaky. Good. What's going on with my breath? So this should end up being, I know we spend a lot of time unpacking this, but
mhm,
it should be a relatively easy thing to pick up on.
mhm, mhm, mhm. And is
For
that what you find with people that sort of after you explain it and they practice it a few times, it does feel like, oh, A, I can do this, and B, it's useful?
Yes. Typically, right out of the gate, most people are going to find that useful. Some people who have really high anxiety might go into the fear of, but I'm not doing it correctly.
Mhm, mhm. Right.
Right. And that's just, all that is another fear thought. And
Right.
that's how
Do
you
it
catch.
again. Yes.
And then do over. It's going to take some practice. It's not automatic because this flight of thoughts has been going on for a long period of time.
Hmm, hmm. And so as you're getting started with people, and this is one of the reasons you like PRT, right, is because there's very specific, concrete strategies and skills that we can employ.
Right, right. And I think, again, by the time clients get to me, they're looking for structure. They're looking for someone to say, here's what I want you to do, and here's how I want you to do it. Right. So that how piece is going to become important, and that's going to take shape over time.
Mhm,
Uh, we don't want to attack our healing process with intensity or treat ourselves like we're an equation.
mhm, mhm.
If I do this technique and I do it the right way, then I'm going to be out of pain. So that how I do things is going to probably be the bigger shift than
Mhm.
the what I'm doing.
Right, right. And so just thinking about kind of what we've talked about, because I know we're starting to run on time and there's a couple of questions that people have asked, but it sort of getting a sense at the beginning of this process that we're really clear in our own minds that our body's not damaged or not damaged. That's not the source of the suffering, and the symptoms are coming from our minds, not our bodies. And then understanding kind of where the anxiety and the personality traits are coming from and making sure that we're paying attention to the things that are going well
Mhm.
and starting by sort of watching our mind and helping us understand that just because we have these thoughts doesn't mean that there's true and there's things that we can do.
Exactly. So that's approximately where a first session starts.
And then you're going to be back with me in about 6 weeks, I think, on Monday, June 1st, I believe, is the next time that we're going to do this. And just as a very brief preview, what are some other pieces as you go along that make the PRT effective?
Right. So I use PRT in my own way because I've been doing this for years.
Mhm.
So I will pepper in things that I think are really important. One of the things that we may end up talking about, and you and I can discuss what we think is the best use of our time next time we meet, is self-compassion. And
Mhm.
how does self-compassion fit in to chronic pain?
Mhm. Mhm.
The piece of being really hard on ourselves.
Right. I normally tell people like we can be mean to ourselves or we can get better, but it's really, really hard to do both.
Right. And we, again, kind of going back to that perfectionistic trait, is that we tend to believe that if we motivate ourselves through harshness, that that's going to get us to where we want to be.
Mhm.
Well, that may have worked in the past. If I just keep putting pressure on, I'm going to be successful. And that may have worked really well.
Mhm.
But it's pressure, pressure, pressure. And the nervous system can really only deal with so much pressure before it says, okay, I've had it. Something's got to shift here.
Yeah. Yeah.
It needs to be made for self-compassion being very relevant to this work.
Yeah, for sure. And so I think that's a good place for us to leave it today. Like I said, a couple people have put into the question and answer chat here a few questions. You have a couple of minutes just to stick around and answer a couple of questions before we sign off for the day. And so there are some that are in the Q&A box that I can see here. If for those of you who are watching, if you still have additional questions, feel free. We'll get to as many of these as we can in the next few minutes. The first question, which is more of a comment, Erica, says that she's been moved to tears listening to describe your message, and your empathy and your intuitiveness come through so powerfully. So anyway, just wanted to give that feedback to you.
Oh, that made me a little misty. Thank you.
And then follow up here, talking and journaling through these processes. And when she feels warning signs in her body, it's astonishing how instantly a symptom can disappear once we figure out what's going on under the surface, and that the political chaos sometimes is can be a catalyst for people too. Do you find that? Do you find that sort of once people really are able to recognize what's going on, you can see a dramatic decrease? And
Yes, quite often actually.
let's see, another question here. Thank you so much for this talk and being here. Doing PRT made a lot of progress, both with the fear and the doubt and the symptoms. Questions about longer term work regarding personality traits. So, personality traits, good strategies for changing these. I've heard that you set boundaries, wondering if there are other techniques or ways to approach the longer term challenge. And so, like we were talking about a few minutes ago, there's a lot in there,
Mhm.
obviously. Boundaries, perfectionism, self-compassion. Can you give people one self-compassion resource that might be helpful for them as they start to think about this, unpack it a little bit?
The first thing, when you said boundaries, the first thing that popped up for me is a quote by the author Prentice Hempel,
Mhm.
where she says, boundaries are the distance at which I can love you and me simultaneously.
Boundaries are the distance that I can love you and me simultaneously. I like that.
Mhm. Right. It's something that I've kind of played with over and over. When I think about, would I rather say no?
Hmm.
Is that okay?
Hmm. Hmm.
Right? So I think in terms of self-compassion, there's so much there to unpack that it's really its own, at least lunch and learn. It's something that I work with ongoing
Yeah.
with clients is how can I be a little bit gentler to myself? And so for the person who's asking, if you can watch the somatic tracking video, there's a lot of gentleness involved in that way of doing somatic tracking through a meditative perspective. And can I just notice myself through a lens of kindness?
Hmm. Yeah. And that somatic tracking video that we did, I put it in the chat. Sounds like the chat maybe didn't get through to everybody. And so Cormindy Health has a YouTube page Mental Health, and Erica and my somatic tracking videos on that YouTube page. And so if you can't find it, just message our office, info@corementalhealth.com, and we will send you the official link. Struggle with a couple more questions. Struggle with PM&R, which is polymyalgia rheumatica, so inflammatory issues for many years, and my inflammatory markers are high. What can I do if I have a physical condition? How is the PRT relevant for someone
Mm.
who struggles with something that's physiologically going on in their body?
And this is a great question, and I in the back of my head, I'd wanted to address that today, but I think we've had a lot to unpack. But it's such a powerful question: is how can it help you? So when I think of inflammation, right, I'm thinking of the immune system. I'm thinking of volume up. I'm thinking of we're going a little bit more towards danger,
Mhm,
right? So I've seen people, and you have too, I know, and
mhm,
we've had clients overlapping who've had autoimmune where they have been able to bring the volume down just by being less reactive. And I probably should have said this right out of the gate. But when I think of pain reprocessing therapy, I'm thinking about, can I learn to respond differently to sensations in my body? And that is possible. It is a big ask,
mhm, mhm,
but
mhm,
it is possible.
mhm,
I
mhm.
respond to the sensation differently, as opposed to going into that reactivity of, oh no, here it comes, right? Because now it's shallow breath, heart racing, body bracing.
Right. And one of the things that I'll say to people is that, we talk about all these systems in our body, the immune system and the nervous system, the cardiovascular system and the endocrine system. We talk about those systems to make it easier for our human brains to understand what's going on microscopically. From the vantage point of the body, there are no systems. It's not like our immune system will say to our nervous system, like, hey, I'd love to take care of that for you, but I'm the immune system, not the nervous system. And so I'm off duty right now, right? It all is just part of one big system. And so when we start to understand that and understand that the immune system and the nervous system are essentially one entity, then we can see that the inflammation, which is the immune system being on high alert, if we calm our nervous system, then the rest of our system starts to calm too. And so we had a client who had inflammatory arthritis and came and worked with one of the therapists here. I don't think it was you, Erica. I think it was one of our other therapists, but she did therapy for about 6 months and her inflammatory scores went down by half,
Mhm.
working on the psychological side.
Absolutely. I absolutely believe that.
So one more question. Any advice regarding the instinct to try to figure out what's triggering or causing the symptoms versus not working so hard to try to recover? Like sometimes it feels like a chicken and an egg.
Okay, so we can actually use the three C's with that,
Mhm, mhm,
right? So it might be an impulse to Google. It might be an impulse to read a Sarno book 40 times, which I've heard from clients. It might be I need to consume massive amounts of content. So
mhm,
that's more the how,
mhm,
right? We were talking
mhm.
earlier about there's the what and
Yep,
then there's the how. And
yep.
so I'll say to people, you don't need to somatic track your face off. You don't need to overly read every single thing. So if you're noticing that you're having that kind of obsessive impulse, I'm not sure if that's exactly what you're asking,
Mhm,
but it's just, oh, aha, there's that impulse. Okay, good. And
mhm.
then what's going on with my breath? Right? Because we want to bring some of that intensity down in terms of I'm going to attack my healing. That's where finding the balance comes in. And that might take a little bit of time to
And
find balance, but notice that impetus to get really intense with the healing process itself.
and because for a lot of our clients, right, that's the strategies that have helped them be successful in the world.
Right.
I was talking to somebody this morning who's a high-level corporate attorney. He didn't get there by being completely Zen. And it's a strategy in the working world that frequently works great. Just when we're trying to heal, whether it's emotional or physical or anything else, we need different strategies that we're learning as adults. And so what you're saying is that we can observe ourselves being intense in that way and then learn just to catch it for just for starters.
Right, right. Just for starters. I mean, it's a longer conversation.
Yeah, good. Let's see. Somebody asked, how do we find a local therapist, or do you work with people on telehealth?
I do work with people in telehealth.
So if people are interested in working with you, they can contact our office. We'll put them in touch. We'll be able to take it from there. So it is top of the hour here in Chicago, and I assume everywhere else around the world as well. So we are going to end there. Thank you to all of you who've been here with us and listening and asking great questions and sharing with us. Erica, thank you for being here and sharing your expertise and what's made you such an effective PRT therapist over the years. If you want any of the handouts that we use to work on the PRT techniques, go ahead and get in touch with us, info@cormendyhealth.com, or go to our website, cormendyhealth.com, and contact us there. And then Erica and I will be back in about 6 weeks on June 1st to continue the conversation and pick up with self-compassion and how that is part of the PRT process. So thank you to all for being here and spending this time with us. Thank you, Erica, so much. And we'll see everybody in about 6 weeks. Bye.
Bye.